How's it going, everybody? It's Terry, Alternative Influence Coaching, and today I'm going to hit the topic of focus and shame. How they're related, how they know each other very well, and how they can affect your decision making. I want to start by showing you this photo. And there's a photo. I don't know if you can see that. That's me, duh, right? From, I don't know, from, what was the year? Maybe 2012. At that moment, we were running a gym out of Edge Hill Village, which is a local, like, shopping mall that was converted from an old, very old cleaning facility, a factory of sorts. In that picture, I hadn't really faced any adversity in my business yet. In that picture, I had been in business for, I don't know, going on 5 years. I had a big staff, and I was earning really good money. And even things were even so awesome that we were recognized for the building that we had because of this old style, this old look of the building that we had. So this factory feel, this vibe. That picture doesn't show you is that I'm about to find out the hardest news for me to swallow. The very first and maybe the biggest pivot that I had to do to date. And that's, I had to figure out how to move my business because the facility got bought and was going to be renovated into a sleeker, more, I don't know, nationally branded facility, okay? Maybe you've heard me talk about this in the past, and I remember sitting in that meeting with that investor, one of the buyers, and him saying the hardest part about owning a gym is overhead. So moving forward, we're planning on revamping this place, and we don't feel like you're a good fit because we don't feel like you're going to be able to pay the overhead. And that's the guy telling me that he's planning on raising the price, and he did. They definitely did. So in that moment, I remember trying to stand up for what I had created. I wasn't critically thinking in that moment because he was absolutely right. That would go on to be the hardest thing, trying to find a space that was comparable, that handled the amount of clientele and the amount of trainers that we had, and we would be forced to pivot 2 more times because of that displacement. And in all honesty, making that move, I did a lot of risk taking. I definitely looked and moved very fast based on my ability to do so, to flip a building really quick and get it ready for a gym. When I noticed that it wasn't going to work in the newest facility, what started to mess with my focus about the future, about the vision for the gym, the vision for the way we did things, my staff, what messed with all of that was shame. And you say, oh, that's really interesting. Why, maybe you don't say that. Why would you feel ashamed? I tell you what, if you have struggled with this in the past, if you've had shame for any other reason, whether it's physical abuse or bullying, sexual abuse, even addiction, you have experienced low shame. And you tend to go to that place, whatever makes you feel like shame, for comfort. You're going to have to stick with me here. This is a deeper subject than you probably want to get into. But we're going to bounce down and come right back out. So, then you start shame starts messing with your identity. And you think that if I feel like I need to feel something, and the only thing I really feel is shame, and I only really feel shame when I do X, Y, and Z. Typically, they're destructive things. Right? This isn't the first time that I feel like I had changed my identity and that I didn't have any real adversity until I was faced with, oh, this new building's not working out. I'm dumping a ton of money into it. And I've put a ton of effort into it, like building it out. And now I've got to let it go. And I somehow feel shame and feel like a failure. If that's you and you're listening to this, you can't let shame mess with your focus. And if you've come from those things that I have mentioned, you have to, we're going to talk about replacing those feelings and replacing those habits and that place that you go to in order to feel comfortable. We're not going to do it all right now. We're going to chip away at that iceberg in a minute. What I want you to hear me say right now is that your focus is still really, really important. When I had my best friend tell me, who was also working for me, he came to me and said, you've got to make a change, you have to do it quick, and you cannot let the failure of this building dictate your identity. You can't get your identity caught up in whether this building is successful or it's not. You must remember that you can keep going. And it was a little bit of a wake-up call, but I did struggle with the decision for a while. And I remember mourning this vision that I had, that I had pumped myself up on, that I tried to get everyone else pumped up on, of having this bigger location, 2 stories, 4 different types of individual spaces per side of the gym. I had it all divided out. It took me a while to deal with the loss, and I had to mourn it. And I did what I always do, and that's my ability to cope happened through my hands, like being a workaholic, like finding a way to focus and we're gonna move real fast. We're just gonna get this behind us, and we're gonna get back to a better situation where we've got more money rolling in, and we're not wasting it all on overhead. So that's a lot. I'll let you into that knowing me pre-pivot and then post-pivot, and that was a year of a struggle right there. And what you tend to do in order to numb out, yes, I worked my butt off. Like, I tried to stay as busy as possible. But then you find yourself super exhausted. And you're exhausted on a level that makes you hard to be around. Like, it makes you hard to be in a relationship. It affects your spirituality. It truly affects your emotions. And all of those things ultimately affect your ability to be a critical thinker and to remain focused. Okay? So those things get in the way like that, and it's hard to see around them to keep moving. So you just go, I'm going to keep working. I'm just going to keep working. Right? Because I feel ashamed of the fact that I made this decision and it didn't work out. Okay? If you're dealing with shame and it's driving you to low places, and you know what those places are without me having to identify that with you. You know what those places are, and you know who you are. You get there and you go low. You have to replace that habit with something positive. And here's just a couple of tips I wanted to give you for that. And mind you, this is a very deep subject, and I'm not unfolding all of it. It's really not the purpose of what we're doing here, but my goal is to give you something to help you replace it. So, and you've got to keep those things relatively in perspective so they don't affect your relationships adversely, right? If they're negatively affecting your relationships, then that's when you know that they are doing obviously more harm than good, and they may actually be a way that you're trying to drown shame as opposed to replace it. Okay? Don't be ashamed of failing and having to pivot and then being wrong. Okay? It just happens. I know that's not enough, but it's just me trying to encourage you. Let's find 5 things that we can do to replace that habit of running to a low place. Okay? One thing you can certainly do, which I was a proponent of for years and still am, that is exercise. Take care of your body. That might mean you need to get a gym membership if you're not actively active. 3 to 4 times a week, taking some time to work out, but focus on your breathing, right? Typically when you're very anxious, you're short on breath, you're starving the body of oxygen, and it's just important to breathe. Okay? Exercise is really repetitive breathing. I remember being a trainer for 15 years and constantly telling people to, hey, you got to breathe while you do that. Can't hold your breath. And it makes it, most of the times it makes it easier, especially in endurance training. So fitness is one. This is kind of like fitness, but it's more about you doing something that's healthier but alone. And that is, maybe it's hiking, maybe it's riding a bike. And you've heard people say this before. And you hear a lot of very new agey things. And I don't have a problem with those people. I'm just saying that there are more things that you can do than some of the things that you hear out there. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So getting out there, getting alone with your thoughts and processing your emotions, allowing yourself to feel a certain way, and then encouraging yourself to move on. It often happens when you've set aside alone time, okay? So, and then you want to make sure that your nutrition is good. That sounds super silly, but when you're not at your best, you're not making the best decisions. So you're either not eating enough or you're eating way too much. You're eating terrible ingredients and you're eating like before bed, or you're eating instead of feeling or sleeping. You're just making decisions that aren't exactly ideal for keeping the body moving optimally. Okay? It's just simply put. Just think about it that way. There's a lot of people out there who are not eating enough and they're still gaining weight and they're confused. There's a whole other video for that. So eat well. Next thing is you're going to want to move. Like if you're, let's just say that you get low with people, right? You go to your low place and it's a way for you to be social, but it's kind of still a dark place. Either invite those people out with you to do those other three things, right? Or you leave those people there. And that's a hard one. That's really a hard one to think about. But you got to find a way to do it, and that's really important. Take those people on a walk and introduce this new habit that you want to try to get into, and replace that low place with active thinking and doing that emotional work. Okay. So the last one, and the last one is a little bit more, I don't know, it's going to feel a little new agey, is that you should journal. You should journal and you should meditate. Okay? That's different than walking and being alone with your thoughts. It really is. I, for instance, when I walk or I go running or biking, I tend to get charged up and I just get new ideas. It doesn't mean I've processed my emotions. Like journaling, meditating, praying, that is very important too. Because what that ultimately, this is a two-part, number 5, 5.1, 5.1, is through that prayer, meditation, and journaling, to really pull out who you feel like you're being to people around you that love you. Whether it's staff, family members, relationships that are messed with, like, and then go back and let's see if you can fix those. Fix is a strong word. See if you can find some clarity in them. How about that? Even if it means you only reconcile those relationships in your mind. You were hurt. Someone made you feel ashamed of yourself, but you forgive them and you walk in that forgiveness. But you can't really actively do that unless you have those other things in place. It's got to spring from health. Okay, the other 4 things have to be in place, including the prayer, the meditation, the journaling. Okay? That's a big ball I'm going to drop on you right now. That's where we're at. That's how we get refocused. There's really nothing frou-frou about it. And it depends on where it hits you. You could be prepped and have this ahead of you. I know I've talked to several guys that haven't really had a big pivot or a big failure that's really messed with their lives. That's super. Great. Then this is prep work. And there are a lot of you out there that are a little bit older, a little more seasoned, who have been, thrown in the spin cycle and beat up and not real sure how to get refocused. Maybe you went out and you're doing something you hate to do just because you need to make a buck, when you're really passionate about this thing, but you're ashamed to get back in. You fear, and you have fear because you failed and you were ashamed of it. Okay? I hope that helps you. All right? I'm going to leave you with that, but I'm not going to leave before I tell you that Friday is Summit Day. Our Fit Pro Success Summit is still up, and you can get to it. It's only $19. You can hear from a lot of really cool people. And another big announcement is that we're putting together an e-course that goes with the book, A Failure's Guide to Business Success. The coolest thing about the e-course, and I'm really pumped about, is we have a new worksheet that goes with it. That is to be a downloadable form for you, a PDF, that will help you work through everything that you're being taught. And we open up some things and we go into more detail in the steps in the book. On top of that, we also talk about the 5 emotions of business. And I'm excited for you to know that and to learn from that as well. And I'm excited to hear your feedback. So I'm hoping to drop that very soon. And that's all I can tell you about that for now. This is Terry, Alternative Influence Coaching. I hope you found some peace in this today. And I hope you have a great day. We'll see you soon.